Hi there, everyone. Welcome to Project Echo, Care of Older Adults. My name is Pam Yankilov, and I'm the Director of Research and Evaluation at the University of Louisville Traeger Institute, and we are very happy to have you here with us today. It's our final Project Echo of 2023. So just some technology tips. We ask that you go on and keep on your video just to help create community, if you can do that. We do ask that you go on and check to see if your microphone is working, but go on and mute yourself just to keep the noise down. If you do want to talk, you can unmute yourself. You can also use the chat. We do have several of us looking in the chat for comments or questions. So the chat is something that's useful. If you happen to get disconnected, you can always join by way of the phone. You can use the information on your agenda, or you can go on and just call. You can use your Zoom app on your smartphone, or you can just go on and call the number. So stay with us. Don't let your technology, frustrate you. We want you to be with us today. All righty. Next slide. All right, let's go on and talk about how this Project Echo, as all Project Echoes, is a collaboration between the Kentucky Coalition for Healthy Communities and the University of Louisville Traeger Institute. So let's go on and begin by getting an understanding of what the mission is for the Kentucky Coalition for Healthy Communities. And I believe Mona is going to go on and share that with us.
Okay, thank you, Pam, and welcome to all of you here. And at the Kentucky Coalition for Healthy Communities, which we are in collaboration with Project Echo, we hope to create community support systems for our older adults and partnerships with the existing local coalitions and organizations. So we try to work alongside them and see how we can get our communities more mobilized. And also, it's a really important strength that we work toward developing the workforce and concerned community members to empower our communities to become healthier. And we do that in a variety of ways that you'll hear about toward the end of the meeting today.
Thank you. All right, so if you're unfamiliar with the Project Echo kind of approach, let me just give you a little bit of background about Project Echo. So Project Echo has been around for about 15 or 16 years. It was actually developed by Sanjeev Arora, which is an MD and a hepatitis C expert. And he basically was developing this telementoring platform. The idea of this telementoring platform is to move knowledge, not patients. He noticed in his practice that patients were coming for his expertise in hepatitis C and driving 200 to 300 miles. And so he felt like he wasn't building local capacity. So he felt that let's go on and develop this Project Echo platform where you don't move patients, you move the knowledge, you build that local capacity. And the idea is that every Project Echo kind of has a rhythm. It has this case-based learning, there's a didactic, and then it's a teach-all, learn-all environment. So the idea is that we all learn from each other and we become more transdisciplinary in the team-based care that we provide to the individuals in our life around healthcare. So addressing that biopsychosocial. So everyone has something to contribute. So again, appreciate that you're here learning together. So we do take attendance via the chat. So we ask that you go on and type your name and your organization in the chat. It not only helps with attendance, but it helps us get a sense of who is in our community for today. So I've already done that. So I think several of us have already done that. It seems like they're coming in. And chat is in the lower portion of your screen if you're on your computer. And then also, if you haven't done so as of yet, go on and add your name under your little Hollywood video square. The way to do that is go on and click on the little 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner, and the dialog box will drop down, and there's a place to go on and click on that says rename, and then you can go on and type your name and that organization there to help us, and your pronouns as well if you'd like to go on and add those as well. So the presenter today has nothing to disclose. We also wanted to let you know that this particular Project Echo is approved by the Kentucky Office of Community Health Workers, in which if you are a community health worker, a certified community health worker, you can receive that 1.5 CEU for your time here with this Project Echo. So make sure you go on and do the evaluation that will be brought up at the end of our Project Echo. Or for those individuals that aren't a certified community health worker, we also can provide an attendance certificate. So if you're interested in receiving an attendance certificate, again, you'll be asked to go on and complete that survey at the end. And I think either Justin or Casey will take us through that at the end about which survey, if we're going to go on and do different surveys. Okay. All right, so we have a wonderful presenter today. I'm so excited to introduce you to Elder Angela Overton. She is going to be presenting on engaging faith-based organizations, putting person-centered decision-making into practice. And before we hand it over to Elder Angela Overton, I'd like to give you a little bit of some information about her. So Elder Angela Overton is an effective communicator of what it means to receive and share divine holy love. Angela is widely known for her practical and dynamic teaching style, which helps people apply the timeless truths of sacred texts to their everyday lives. She's been preaching and teaching and providing pastoral care in congregations and communities close to 30 years. Angela resides in Louisville, Kentucky, where she serves as the assistant minister and pastoral care overseer at Burnett Avenue Baptist Church. Angela is the founder and chief executive officer for the Care Well Center in Louisville, Kentucky, where she works with faith leaders as they work in partnership to care well for those in their respective communities. She is also the senior advisor at the Coalition to Transform Advanced Care, or C-TAC, in Washington, D.C., where they are dedicated to improving the lives of people impacted by serious illness. So thank you so much, Elder Angela Overton, for coming, and I'm going to hand the mic to you.
Thanks, Pam. It is an absolute pleasure to be before you all, my colleagues, today. I'm going to get right into it because I just have a few minutes, and I want to make sure that I have an opportunity to share with you all, but to also ask questions. So early on, I understood that those who were called as faith leaders were called to do more than touching and agreeing in prayer and teaching from sacred texts. It requires doing and being the sacred text as a representative of the divine. It requires exuding kindness by acts of grace. If an individual has a need, we are to journey with them until that need is satisfied. It is insufficient, inadequate, and unsustainable to tell individuals about water, for example, and that it is a necessity for sustaining life without taking them to the water. I work in two sectors by vocation, as Pam had mentioned. I work on the spiritual side, right? But then I also work in the secular environment, having the opportunity to work in Washington, D.C., but throughout our nation, really trying to improve and advocate for legislative change, workforce improvements that will require systemic change, and community engagement on a national level. My lane is working with faith leaders from all faith traditions and beliefs, assisting them in journeying with parishioners and the residents of their communities to improve health outcomes. Specifically, this is my passion and my love, specifically for underserved populations. Because we are in Louisville, Kentucky, for my time with you today, for context, I will be referencing a local project we have launched here in the 40203 zip code. It is the Louisville Community Care Project, centered around partnerships to satisfy our objectives. For my 15 minutes with you, they are here today. So we want to provide ways and examples of how to engage faith leaders of faith-based organizations who support individuals navigating clinical decisions to align with their goals and values. I want to highlight system biases that prevent an interprofessional system to ensure person-centered decisions. And then thirdly, I want to share tools with you, procedures and practices to be implemented in order to be able to honor individuals' preferences and decisions. If your goal is to support individuals so that they can make the best medical decisions for themselves, it is for you to engage them where they are. You have to meet them where they are most comfortable, or at minimum, create a space that is culturally sensitive to their comfortability, and then provide access. It's not sufficient to provide a service at your location to, for example, communities who struggle with transportation. That makes no sense. We went directly to the places of worship in 40203 to introduce ourselves to the faith leaders by a trusted source, which was AARP, to understand their vision of care for our target audience That is with those with serious illness. So once we understood what their concerns were, it was essential that we provided a solution to that. We asked them as experts in this community, what were the impediments to quality care for those with chronic disease? We assessed their needs as well as their assets. We conducted a needs and asset assessment regarding the individuals they serve. This is not tell me about yourself, so I decide how to fix you. It is what needs have what needs have you have, right? What needs have you recognized? What are you already doing? And then how can we help you? It is imperative that we identified assets as well. So every faith tradition, every faith community, it encompasses an element of hope. So it is always important to carry out this posture when engaging faith communities. If you come with them, approaching them, and you are downcast and downhearted, start again on another day, because this is not going to be helpful. So individuals also do not need to be fixed when it comes to person decisions centered around what they want to do. It is assisting with advocating, accessing, and sharing opportunities with said individuals. Based on these assessments, then we co-designed and implemented a strategic plan to address these needs. We learned that the key areas in 40203, we learned some three things that faith leaders said were impediments to not only accessing care, but making decisions that align with their priorities to persons who were making these sort of healthcare decisions. It was number one, lack of resources to address social determinants of health. Number two, lack of human resources and training to support full congregation's needs. And then number three, lack of health partners to facilitate health programming. Example, health screenings and ACP, advanced care planning. If it isn't in your lane, it's your responsibility, this is my recommendation, to find the provider where it is their lane and make that connection. If you are in this work and there are individuals or things that faith leaders say are impediments and you do not address it, you are doing more harm than good. We connected faith leaders and surrounding community with partners through the C-TAC network. So we supported existing programs, food banks, essential drives by connecting congregations to local food essentials and healthcare resources. We increased the food pantry. This is what our one faith leader said, by 1,025%. We organized grief training for associate ministers and deacons and continuing education. Next slide. We also, next slide. This is where we organize grief training for associate ministers and deacons, and so continuing education. 93% felt more prepared to provide grief support, and 79% felt more prepared to have hard conversations around death. Norton Healthcare led trauma-informed care and resilience training. We also organized advanced care planning, estate planning for congregation and communities. And so as a direct result of modeling this program, individuals and created notarized documents. We utilize the language of just good stewardship of the time that has been entrusted to you. We made sure that our messaging matched their receptive language. So it's not sufficient to, this is this whole component of meeting individuals where they are. We have a community health and wellness fair that we've done. We've done it in person and we've done it virtually. So for individuals that were comfortable coming out, we provided an actual individual, not a link, not a resource. So these are some of the best ways that you can encourage individuals that of the faith community, is meeting them where they are, providing events and activities that will support them in making these decisions. We also did a 40203 form. This has everything to do with getting faith leaders as well as community leaders together to have a discussion. This year we had a discussion with Senator Gerald Neal, and then Ender Signal from the mayor's office. We've had from the police force, we've had our faith leaders to discuss health, crime, and humanity. There's always a good opportunity to create spaces where all individuals involved can come and have some discussions, not angry discussions, but really just to kind of really focus on what is going on in our community, what should not be going on in our community, and what should be going on in our community. Making a valid, if you will, the connection to meet folks in their congregations is essential, in their places of worship, in their mosques, in their synagogues, wherever it may be, where they are most comfortable, as well as their faith leaders present to say, hey, I agree with this, and I'm working in community with individuals that can help change this sort of landscape to make a difference so that we can allow for our community to as well make good decisions for themselves. We did something new this year. We did caregivers recognition of our faith leaders. And we also did caregivers recognition. We just recently had a caregivers gala. And so this is an opportunity where our caregivers can be recognized as well as honored, as well as provided with an opportunity for respite, as well as an opportunity to hear what is going on in community. Again, not by a link, not by a website, but an actual individual to say, here, I'm here to support you and I see you. Next slide. Okay. So the question that I really want to get to today, after all of this sort of, if you will, context that I've just shared, is really provided you just recently an opportunity to see some of the best practices, some of the best ways that you can reach faith organizations is one, doing that needs assessment, then also following up with events that addresses the needs that the faith leaders, the organizations of the CEOs, directors of the faith organizations, that you address those needs. But then finally, we need to, we can have all of this, right? But if we do not have fair systems, we are going to fail in having equitable healthcare for all, but then also the opportunity for the individuals that is receiving care to let their decisions not only be heard, but a process created to make sure that all of their wants and their desires are met. So I have a question for you all. And so you can raise your hands or you can put it in the chat. Do you believe excellent healthcare reaches all communities? I see no hands. Okay, no. All right, no. All right, I see no. Okay. All right. So this is the question we must ask our legislators, providers, and ourselves. We must ask ourselves, as I work in providing care, is the service I offer a part of the solution, or am I perpetuating systems that are unjust? What prevents our organizations from providing care to all communities? I suggest that number one, you, associated organization, not dealing with said individuals' needs is major. If you cannot address issues that are barriers, stop until you can. Then number two, organizational structures and systems that encompass subconscious, implicit, and fully aware biases are also barriers. Diversity, equity, inclusion training, and accountability ramifications must be ongoing. I cannot say this. If you don't hear anything else today, please hear this. If your organization, if you yourself are not a part of engaging in ongoing training for what I call justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion, you will be doing a disservice to your vocation. Everyone that is a part of providing services of care must have the understanding of what biases are. Because my time with you is limited, I won't go over the following slides verbatim. I have shared with Justin a resource that I recommend you all go as a review or introduction to key definitions that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, NIH, provide. If you do not understand and can recognize discrimination in our healthcare systems, policies, practices, and norms, and ethnicity, and the role it plays in healthcare, we impede the position of providing a safe place for persons other than white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Next slide. Racism, learned behaviors, stereotyping are all threats to individuals. Success of making decisions that matter to them most. There is no opportunity for a person to make decisions about their health if they are receiving care from individuals or organizations encompassed of individuals who have unchecked biases. So, age and generational issues research how Americans' biases are changing or not over time. This was an article written by Charlesworth and Van Dyne. They share that some implicit attitudes have remained stable over decades. Negatively toward the elderly and people with disabilities has shifted by less than 5% since 2007. In fact, change is so slow that forecasts suggest it could take well over 150 years for either bias to reach neutrality. Unlike sexual orientation and race, ageism and ableism are relatively under the radar attitudes when it comes to social and legal engagement. Both are also related in people's minds to actual physical traits that are easy to see, and many of which are perceived negatively. Implicit weight bias increased by 40% in early years of the decade, approximately between 2004 and 2010. These increases stand in stark contrast to the decreases observed in explicit weight bias, as well as to all other implicit biases they study, which is at worst have remained stable. So studies are showing us that our implicit and explicit biases are not going anywhere. And so, or it's not going to go anywhere in our lifetime. So what do we do with that, right? So whatever the causes of changes in implicit attitudes, business leaders seeking to widen participation rates and gather the best talent in their organizations, if this is what you want to do, right, we must not forget the subtle forms of biases and discrimination that exist today, especially given the stability and even the deepening of some implicit attitudes over time. So in all honesty, if you really want to change the landscape of the environment that you're working on, this is the final slide. If you're really interested in organizations and providers, for example, changing how older adults receive care, my first recommendation is to seek out the organizations and persons already on the ground doing the work that have already built trusting relationships. If you listen to them, support them through the sharing of informational and tangible resources that offer solutions to their expert opinion of impediments of qualitative healthcare, you will reach your target populations and you will make a difference. Persons will be provided the opportunity and access to make the best decisions they deem appropriate for themselves. So now I'd like to take a few questions.
Thank you so much. So do we have any questions or comments? Angela, I was thinking about how I had a presentation once that said that there are 8,700 hours in a year, and that most of our time is not spent in the doctor's office, but most of our time is spent in our communities. And when you think about it, our faith-based communities, and that so much of health happens there. And, all of your pictures and your slides, as you were talking about it, how it is that, getting us to get out of our offices and go into the community and connect with those faith-based leaders and those faith-based communities where individuals really trust what's going on, that you have I guess, your finger on the pulse of that community and the health in that community, both at an individual level and a macro level. And that we too, that are working in organizations, need to reach out and get to you, as you have demonstrated in your presentation.
I have to tell you, we do projects everywhere. So I focused in on Louisville. We do projects in California. We do projects in Buffalo, New York, Detroit, Michigan, Washington, D.C., Texas. I won't say, because I don't want to compartmentalize or stereotype, but what I have found with indigenous population, with my Muslim brothers and sisters, Jewish brothers and sisters, those that practice Buddhism, even agnostics, everyone has a belief. And the community where they are, feel, I would say, most trusted is the faith community. Even if it's outside of the faith tradition, they still have a relationship and a rapport with the community. And so, well, I will say, I can't say all, right? But because we all have work to do, but definitely the faith leaders who are community minded are trusted already in their community. And so to go outside and say, hey, we have a project, hey, this is what we have going on. If there is an underserved population, let's say, for example, for the indigenous people, they're not coming to you. And so a lot of organizations cannot wrap their mind around the fact that we have this wonderful program. We have this wonderful opportunity. Why are they not coming? So if you have not addressed some of what they say are the impediments to the healthcare or taking advantage of whatever resource that you have to offer, right? If someone is hungry, right, they're not thinking about this annual screening. They're not thinking about that. If they don't have appropriate housing, that's not on their priority list. If, as we're dealing with our aging population, our older adults, right, if they're moving into Social Security, and I know individuals with this project, they're only making, or we're taking in $700 a month. So we have to think about all of those pieces if we're really going to serve this community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Other comments? So Casey shared and Justin shared the link to the article.
I have my hand up.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's not that visible.
All
But
right.
I was thinking, as she was speaking, I had my hand up. I was going to say some of the same things she was saying. I even think back to my parents back in the 50s and 60s. If it was not said in the church, it was not real. You think about diversity and equity and inclusion. That's where our trust was. So that's why politicians, even today, they want to come and speak to us at church, because they know that, well, if he's in my church, I'll listen to him. My pastor must think he's okay to even be here in the first place. So the church is a great place for a lot of things to build relationship with certain communities, because that's where it begins for many of us, especially, like I said, my parents. If it was said in church, it was real.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We held a program, advanced care planning. We didn't call it that. We did game night. We named it something else. But if the preacher there had not spoken on from the sacred text to explain why we are doing this, we had better success when they did. And we had an event where we provided the attorney, we provided the notary public, and 100% of the individuals that came, they left with a completed document. And so that was success, because they had their faith leader saying, God really requires us to be good stewards of our time, to have our affairs in order. And so 100% success.
Yes, great. That's excellent.
I have a
Other-
question.
Yes.
I was wondering if there was a way that we could find out your connection with specific religions or a specific project, if you've rubbed shoulders with a particular religion that would be of interest.
So what is your focus? What is there a religion that you're interested in, or are you?
Yeah, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
So what I do, we did this COVID, prior to COVID, and that was we had an organization that was interfaith, the interfaith working group, interfaith steering committee, where we availed our organization to have a place where all faith leaders can come to gain a better understanding of how to journey with said communities. So it was open. The closest that I worked with the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints was about 5 years ago with a group out in Texas. And so I could talk to you more about that. It's interesting because I think I know where you're getting, but I don't want to assume. Sometimes it's very difficult to engage certain faith traditions because they are closed off to secular involvement in some healthcare decisions. So we have the approach with identifying the leader that, again, is already working in community. And that's what we did out in Texas. We engaged with the leader. Since COVID, there's been some disruption in these sort of relationships because folks' capacity has been limited. But to your question, Natalie, I think, is that we had to find the leader that was open to working and being in partnership with community organizations. We could not go directly and say, hey, this is what we had to offer. We really had to hone in. And so that's what I do a lot of my time with my imams and with my rabbis and with other faith traditions that normally are not open to these sort of partnerships. I have to find a leader that says, I am availing myself to open in the community. So how I sometimes even do that with areas that I'm not familiar with is I work with AARP or some other organization that is on the ground that is known in doing the work, and I partner with them so that that face is visible to said community.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
There's a question in the chat.
Yes, it says, Erica, you're welcome to jump on if you'd like to ask your question. It says, Erica, would you like to jump on and ask your question?
Sure. Sorry about that. I was great presentation, good information. Thank you very much. I'm glad I was able to attend today. I work on a geriatric workforce enhancement program in Pennsylvania, in central Pennsylvania. And I'm wondering if there's a disconnect for me and how to go about making that initial reach and trying to figure out where the connection point is for me in this area. So I'm wondering if you know if there are, and we are trying to serve, I don't know if you're familiar with Pennsylvania, it's a very rural state. We have a lot of older adults living in rural areas. So I'm wondering if there is some kind of a organization or a system of faith leaders that you may know of, or where I could start looking.
Let me get back with you. I don't have it off the top of my head. Let me do some looking and then I will follow back up with you.
Thank you.
I will follow back up with Justin and Pam, and then they will, or you can send me an email of your question.
Okay.
And then I'll have your email and then I can directly respond to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that offer. Thank you.
All right. I think we're going to close the question and answer opportunity now and go on and move on to our case presentation. Thank you so much, Angela. And we're going to move on to our case and hope that you can stay with us and continue to offer your expertise. So we have the recommendations being taken by, I'm going to go with Dr. Sam Cotton. Is that correct? Thumbs up? Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
All right.
And
All right. Thank you so much. And then let's see. So we have Tabitha Jeffries going to present on the case.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Tabitha, I'm going to jump in here real quick and give some context about the Henderson settlement. So Tabitha is going to present a case for a client that we're working with at the settlement. And just to let you all know, the Henderson settlement is located in Frakes, Kentucky, so that's southeastern Bell County, extremely remote. It's roughly, generously, I'm going to be generous here, 30 to 45 minutes from the nearest town. So just to kind of put into context, the Henderson settlement was created out of the coal era in eastern Kentucky. Reverend Frakes, which the community's named Frakes, is named after him, established this community to get away from the violence that was associated with the coal camps. And so this has, it's Reverend Frakes, established this community in like, it's grown throughout the years, but it originally started in the 30s and has built. So this is essentially like the center of the whole community. They offer the senior commodities, they offer the women's fellowship group, they offer the men's fellowship group, they do after school programs for children. They have food pantry, they have a thrift store, they have churches from all over the country that come in and volunteer in the Frakes community to help rebuild roofs. They've even built homes in the community. So I wanted to give you all some context about what the Henderson settlement is and how this faith-based organization serves this client. And I'll be around if we have questions more about the Henderson settlement and the work that they do. Tabitha, take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tabitha, and so this client has recently experienced a lot of health setbacks. She caught COVID in the later part of October twice, was hospitalized a little bit after that for pneumonia, and then for about a week or so was put in week or two, was put in a rehab facility. She lives independently. She was never married and she doesn't have any kids. And her full support, the settlement is how she gets around to most of her, like doing her grocery shopping and going to her appointments. And the questions that we wanted to kind of focus in on are, what additional resources should we be connecting this client to, and how can we keep her engaged post-hospitalization and chronic illness?
And to kind of piggyback off that, so the Henderson settlement provides transportation for her to go to church services, any appointments that she has. Essentially, the Henderson settlement community has become her family. So she is very isolated. The settlement is her support system. For example, when she was hospitalized, the women at the women's group that meets weekly would take time to pray for her. So she is an integral part of their team, their little unit, but also she does rely heavily on the Henderson settlement. And so I think I don't want to have tunnel vision in that. I want us to see what could we be missing that we need to help provide the support for her.
Okay, so, sorry.
Sorry, Tabitha. Also, I want to apologize for some of the clinical measures and the medications. The client has been very fatigued. Things have changed. And so since we spoke to her, things have changed, especially post-hospitalization. So we didn't want to make assumptions. So we did just leave it blank. She's the spunkiest, and Tabitha's going to talk about the spunkiest lady you will ever meet. But you can tell that this hospitalization and this time that she has post-COVID has really taken a toll on her. She doesn't want to talk on the phone as much. And so it was really hard to get a lot of this information. So I did want to apologize that Tabitha tried to exhaust all resources to do it.
Yeah, so this client, she's 83 years old. she had a stroke back in 2020, which she kind of thinks that that's where a lot of her pain and a lot of like her chronic illness, that's what she thinks it stems from, is from her stroke. She has had COVID twice, pneumonia. She does have diabetes. She had cataract surgery, but she has had a lot of pain in her left eye since this procedure was done. And she has a lesion on her nose. The last time I spoke to her about this, she was she never said that it caused her pain. It just itched a lot. But she did, want to try to see what was going on with that. So, this client does not suffer from any cognitive decline, as Chelsea mentioned. She is very spunky. Before this, I was calling her and we'd talk pretty much every day for about an hour or so. And she would tell me things about her life when she was 4 and 5 years old. She would tell me things about her family. She does a lot of crossword puzzles. When I have done a few home visits, she would be either working on them or she would be finishing one and starting another one. She does a lot of sewing and things like that, that keeps her busy. She isn't able to stand up for a long period of time, and I'm assuming since this hospitalization and stuff, that's probably not gotten any better. And every time you talk to her, she will tell you that she's very lonely in terms of, not having anyone, because she does come from a big family. She is 7 out of 8 siblings. And she's just used to having all of that family support. And so when people do call her, when people do come and visit, it really does like make her day. Usually when you call her, you can tell in her voice if she's ready to talk or not, or if she's tired. But you could just hear as soon as you talk to her how happy she was to be able to just share her story with anyone. So this client does have a high school diploma. She doesn't have any advanced directives, and she does have a niece that works in a grocery store or deli type company that brings her some food or some milks, small groceries. She does have a lot of outside cats, so she feeds them, and her niece will bring her supplies for those cats. She is financially stable and she is very educated on the assistance that she receives. Like she'll tell me pretty much all the resources that she knows that she's able to get. So she's a very big advocate for herself, mostly because she has to be, but she's really heavily involved in like budgeting and making sure that she is set for what she needs. She does not have any behavioral health or substance use disorder. As Chelsea mentioned, she is a Christian and does attend church when she does get transportation. She worked in a worked in a factory up until she had to take care of her parents. She is the only surviving sibling and wasn't married. And her oldest brother did die in a car accident when he was 18. And sometimes she kind of talks about that and how much she misses him. And I think most of the psychological thing that she talks about most is just not feeling like she has anybody. And for the most part, she is in her home by herself because she's not able to leave unless the Henderson settlement takes her to wherever she needs to go. She does use tobacco, but she has been trying to quit. She was telling me like the different transitions and things that she's been going through with that. She did have a stroke in 2020, and as I mentioned, she does think that's limited her mobility and caused her a lot of back pain. She does have diabetes and does a great job at keeping track of her blood sugar levels. When I was calling her, I could tell like when she wasn't feeling well or when she wasn't in like or up for talking. And then when I would call her back, she would tell me, oh, it's because my blood sugar was low or there was something wrong with that. So I just needed to eat something. She does take her medication as she should, but she does get, she's not very trusting of new doctors. She does go to a clinic in Clarefield, Tennessee, that's really close to her home. And she does trust her primary physician, but other physicians she's not very trusting of. And if she doesn't trust the physician, she doesn't take the medication as she should.
And I wanted to add that I think it's just her nature. The first time I did a home visit as a student with this patient, she was the same way. She was kind of like, "Who are you? Who are you? What are you here for?" And it took a lot. It took a while actually to build that rapport. Tabitha's done a great job of being consistent and building that rapport. But it's almost like you have to prove yourself that you're going to follow through with what you say for sure before she's willing to be like, okay, I accept you. And where she is located, there are very few doctors, so she has to travel quite a ways. And so I think that also has implications on her distrust, and we know that as a culture as well. And I wanted to add that she uses smokeless tobacco, and we've done smoking education. We've talked to her a lot about it, but like Tabitha said, she is working on it.
Okay. So she does have regular source of care. Like I mentioned, there is a clinic close to her home, and she is very trusting of her primary care doctor. She does have access to some medications. She is a diabetic, and she's been fitted for diabetic shoes, but there's just been a lot of issues in terms of like either transportation to get it started. I'll be honest, there's been so much going on with her. I've not really been able to follow up with that. So her insurance does send some of her medications in the mail, and she's able to get most of her medications this way. And she would have access to mental health services as she needed them. And overall satisfaction, as Chelsea stated, you do kind of have to prove yourself. I think it's due to her being kind of alone for so long. She does kind of get very protective of herself. So it would depend on the physician or the procedure, but I would say most of the time she's very satisfied with her care. And access to dental care. So as Chelsea stated, I'm from a county over from her, and healthcare is very limited, but dental care is even more limited. So she doesn't have like quick access to dental care. She's not been to the dentist in a long time from what I've seen, and I was even this way. Because I'm from a small town, and it seems like she's kind of this way too. If it doesn't hurt, you don't always go, because it's probably going to be like a 2 to 6 month wait to get in to see the dentist. So yeah, I've been trying to look at ways to kind of help her with that, but so many things have came up in her health recently that's not really kind of a primary concern. So she does have some areas of her home that are cluttered. But for the most part, her living room and bedroom is where she goes. And she obviously goes to her kitchen to cook. And for the most part, that's not cluttered. So I wouldn't say she's at risk for falling in her home. She does have smoke detectors in her home. Her home is clean, and she does all of the household activities throughout the day. Sometimes that doesn't always happen, and I'm sure since she's been so tired recently, it's probably not as consistent, but I don't blame her because she's been going through a lot. She is able to shower and do daily activities on her own, and she doesn't live in a stressful environment, but I do think that she gets stressed because she feels lonely. And I think that's kind of a very overwhelming feeling for her all the time. So that, as I mentioned, pretty much not the only support, but the main support for her is the Henderson settlement. They take her to her appointments and buying her groceries. And also she's like the perfect candidate for the virtual friendly visitor program. And she does benefit greatly because she's able to talk to people and not feel as isolated from everyone. So I would say that the Henderson settlement and Traeger have done a very good job with helping her, become less isolated and providing her those services.
Great job, Tabitha.
Thank you. I'm trying to move the Hollywood square box so I can't see the chat.
Thank you. Yeah. So thank you so much. So Justin, is the next slide show the questions again?
I'll bring them back up. Just give me just.
That'd be great. So Tabitha, so you're just talking about resources in general to help her. So it could address a variety of things, or did you want to focus in on a particular thing? Like, is there something that really matters most to her, or?
I think any resources are good. It's hard now, because she's had such health decline recently. But I think any resources are appreciated for sure.
Does she receive any home visits from any minister? Or I know that's probably very difficult given how remote.
I don't think so.
Okay.
She has went to she goes to a church that's pretty close to her home, but she's not able to drive or anything, so she has to rely on other people to take her. But I've honestly never thought of that, so I could bring it up for sure.
I also wonder if there's a group that would visit individuals from the church. And Angela, I don't know if there's anything that you're thinking of as we're talking about this. Not yet. Okay. All right. All right. And then how long has she been a part of the virtual friendly visitor program?
Chelsea, do you know?
Yeah, she's one of our at least 2.5 years.
Oh, that's great. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Right. So we have a few questions in the chat. Erica was wondering, does she have a daily mobility goal?
I don't think so. Most of the time, when I talk to her, she will say that she's walked around the house a couple of times, and that usually kind of makes her tired. So she'll kind of quit for a little bit and then start. But I don't think so.
Okay, so Christian Furman, our geriatrician at the Traeger Institute Optimal Aging Clinic, indicated in the chat that she had to leave early, but what she said is that since she has diabetes, just make sure that her A1C is not too low. This is the average glucose sugar over the last 3 months. She said it could tire her if her meds are making her A1C go too low. And she said that given her age, that she's 83, is that right? Yeah, that you usually look at the age, and that's where her A1C should be. But sometimes it's kept too low. So just, and she also thanked you for the case and said it was a great presentation, but wondered if you should also look into that as well, because that could also be tiring her out. And let's see. Is there, is Shelby, I know that you may have had to come in late. Is there anything related to the mobility goal, given that she gets very tired and that she's had COVID twice? She had a stroke in 2020, and she's also had pneumonia. Is there anything that you would suggest from a mobility standpoint?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question for her. I don't know if her resources would allow it, but if she could have a like a pulse ox or some way to help monitor her heart rate and oxygen as she walked around the house, and that way she could also use that as kind of a measure on how much she's either pushing her vitals versus pushing her, exhaustion or fatigue level as she walks around her house. That might be helpful to help her measure some of those things.
Mm-hmm. All right. It's Mackenzie said, let's see, do you know if there's any virtual options for church or other surrounding churches? I know that here in the city, there are a lot of churches that offer online options. Does she even have a computer and internet?
That's what I was going to say. No, she doesn't really, she still has like a really big box TV. So yeah.
Okay. Kristen indicated how long. Kristen, did you want to jump on and ask your question?
Yeah, I'm just, one of my concerns was the lesion on her nose. I was curious how long she's had that lesion.
Let me think.
It's been a while, Kristen, and we have tried to make her okay, so and an interesting thing is she's right on the state line to Tennessee. So some providers will take her insurance and some won't. In Kentucky, some won't. It's a little back and forth. And so we had so a dermatologist is in Knoxville. And so I know she's been to there at least once. I know Henderson provided transportation at least once, but I think there hasn't been much follow-up, but it has been there. I remember when I did her home visits, it was there.
Did her primary care, who she trusts, has he or she seen that?
They have, and I'm almost positive, Kristen, that's the one that referred her to the dermatologist. I think the failure to follow up has been on her end.
Okay, so I mean, if he's already or she's already addressed it, then it's probably fine. But two concerns that could relate to fatigue it's a pretty common sign of the herpes simplex virus, a lesion on the nose that can spread to the eye, and it's a pretty emergent issue when it gets to the eye. I know she has some eye pain. So maybe something to just consider. And then another issue could be a skin cancer, a lesion that's not healing. So both of those, both the virus and cancer can contribute to fatigue.
And Kristen, I'm really glad you said that, because I do think we need to, have more of that tough conversation with her. Like, we really need to get this looked at, because she was very active, like had a garden, was outside, very cultural, Southeastern Kentucky. She grew her own food. She was outside a whole lot. She tended to her own yard, pulled her own weeds. And so I think, yes, it could be multiple things, but we really do need to circle back to that with her.
Great, thank you. All right, a few more things about rehab. Home health PT, did you ask that question? I don't know, Shelby, if you've asked that one.
Yeah, I kind of asked that in the chat. I was just wondering, after she went to rehab, after being in the hospital and everything, was there anyone that came to her home, or how did they kind of discharge her from there? Did they give her any instructions?
So I don't know much about her discharge. It was kind of shocking to me when I found out, because it was like right after, I think, her hospitalization. They put her in the facility for rehab, and it didn't seem like it was a week or two that she was back at home. So I'm not for sure what the status is on that or what services were provided afterwards.
Okay. Julie, would you like to jump on and ask your question? No.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, Julie, yes.
I know that getting to the dentist is challenging for her, but there's a lot of research out there talking about how poor oral health can contribute to larger health concerns. And so, you know, is there a way to give him a list for a dentist, or at least maybe have another health provider ask those oral health questions to see if there's anything else going on?
I couldn't really hear her, so can someone tell me what she asked?
Actually, I can't tell if my internet went out. What was the last thing that you said, Julie, your last sentence?
I'm sorry. Or is there another health provider that could at least do some kind of screening with oral health questions?
Mm-hmm. Actually, Liam actually has an idea here. Liam, would you like to jump on and share your ideas?
Yeah. So I worked with a different mobile dental unit before doing my internship here, and so that's kind of how I know about the Delta Dental Kentucky Mobile Dental Unit. They just collaborate with nonprofits to set up in like community areas, so that's like churches or gymnasiums. The one that I worked at, we did like a lot of schools, and they provide no cost dental like cleanings and like referrals and things like that. It could just be a good starting place to have like something set up so that way she can at least get her teeth looked at, as well as like other people in the community. And then if they see like bigger concerns, she can be referred out.
Listen, absolutely. We have tried to do this so many times for this community. If you could put like email me or put a contact in the chat, that would be fantastic. Someone that you think I could reach out to, because this is really, that's something we've really tried to do, Liam. So if you have any connection or know someone specific for me to reach out to, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, put your email in the chat and I'll contact the place that I used to work, because the place that I used to work, it just focused on like kids and like the school system. But I'll contact my old boss and see if she knows anybody, because I'm sure that she does, because like they do the same thing. And then I'll send you what they tell me.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Liam.
Yeah, for sure.
And Justin, I think that is right. Knoxville is the closest large community, and it is about an hour and a half away, I think. And Tom, your question, the University of Pikeville is probably, I'd say, about 2 hours. It's kind of in the opposite direction. And I think they're opening their program in 2025. So I don't know if that would be like an immediate option or not. But that is something to take into consideration. Thank you.
What about more ideas about the socialization piece? You know, I know that she has the virtual friendly visitors, and I know that she occasionally has transportation to church. Are the women in the group, do they have the capacity, that's at Henderson, do they have the capacity to do any visits?
So some of the women in that group go and visit her. Chelsea, do you want to talk more about the women's group?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
have a lot of information
So
about
especially in the summer and the winter, not so much in the spring and the fall, they will take hot meals out to this resident and sit and spend time with her. But they have recently started a new, they've hired a coordinator for their seniors, and this individual is going out to the homes. So it does vary, and especially with this client, how long she wants to engage, but she is getting in-person visits from the settlement. And so, and a lot of the ladies will just pop by and see if she needs anything. So a lot of it's in and out, not necessarily not meaningful, but it's not, they're not there a long time. They're like, hey, did you get groceries? Do you need milk? And then they'll leave. But they do have a senior coordinator that is spending specifically more time one-on-one with the seniors in the community.
Is there any possibility to like establish a visiting schedule? Do you think that that could, is that something that's even
And actually with the settlement, Dr. Pam, right now, we're working with them to develop so like a home visit toolkit. And
Yeah.
and so my goal, my thought is with this toolkit, that will actually extend the length that they're there because we're going to provide one-on-one activities for them. So it's still a work in progress. But I do think that it will be beneficial in extending the length of the visits because they're going to be able to do one-on-one things together.
Yes. All right. And we have 2 more questions. I know we're at 5 minutes after the hour, but I would like to get these 2 questions in. So if she loves growing things, I wonder if she has plants in her homes to care for. This is a question from Erica. It feels like she needs some kind of constant companion to help her feel connected or inspired to life.
I don't think she does, but that's actually a really good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a good idea. And then Justin asked the question about, does the Henderson settlement offer worship services?
They used to, but post-COVID, and there's still a lot of reluctance to come back to the clinic in a communal, back to the settlement in a communal setting. We're seeing that really across the whole population. There's they call them the old faithfuls that are there regardless, but and that's the women's group we work with, but there is still a lot of resistance to join in a group setting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. And then Angela, I think I'm going to give you the last question. Would you like to ask your question?
I just had a gamut of questions really about, this doesn't necessarily want to try to encourage coordinated care, which is kind of difficult to do in rural communities. But she's 83. She has all, I guess, if you would, these comorbidities. Is she a candidate for palliative care? Is that something that is offered in that area? And if so, I think she could get more support through some therapies that might be beneficial to her, as well as everyone coming together to discuss her as a whole individual versus her trying to reach out all of these entities. So, and then also, I always believe that sometimes a direct question, what is going to make you happy? You want to kind of move in toward this conversation where she's, where you're open to listen to her. Like, what is it that you think you need versus you have all of these individuals coming and providing them with what they think that would benefit her. She's 83. I'm like, a cigarette, if she wants to enjoy a cigarette, let her have a cigarette. But, I know that's not the healthy way to say it, but, at this point, you got to have some vices. So, but I really think that would be my thought. And then also, is her church aware that she's going through? Sometimes folks can get left in the cracks, because I certainly have individuals in our congregation that you would have no idea that they're silently suffering. And so it's because this individual hasn't shared, hey, this is what I'm going through. So because you have her ear, maybe you could ask the question, does your congregation, are they aware that you've had COVID twice in October, that you dealt with pneumonia? And so then perhaps you could not only encourage her, but then ask her, is there someone at your church or your congregation that I could be in touch with to kind of help them reach out to her and to provide some additional comforts and supports? So I have to roll. You all, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. God bless you. And I pray that all of your holidays, whomever brings you happiness, that you enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
All right. And Tabitha, thank you so much for presenting the case. And I think we've got some good ideas to get you thinking in some different ways. And I know that Sam's going to do a great job getting those together for you.
Yes,
and,
I will email those to you, Tabitha.
And Chelsea, thank you so much for providing additional context. We're going to move into our KCHC meeting, and I think it's a great way to move from always beginning about what matters most to the patient and what brings the person joy. It's a way to end our case presentation. So Mona, you can take it away.
Okay, well, let's go on to the next slide. Of course, we've already talked about what our purpose is to train and empower stakeholders and community members to provide hope and education for their communities. And I think today's presentation showed us really how important that is for us to be able to do that. So let's go on. So, I think that we've learned an awful lot today, and I would like for someone to just unmute themselves and say, share something that they learned, and how are you going to be able to share that information within your community setting?
I'll just share something really quick. So working with this client, kind of reinforced what was being talked about today, what matters to her. Because as we would talk and she would tell me about all the things that she needed and the services that she needed, and she would just tell me how exhausting it is for everybody to say, oh, well, you need to get this done, or you need to go see this doctor. And she would, tell me, I know I have all these things going on. I just, I am from a small town. There isn't a lot of things around for me, or a lot of resources. And she does live on that like state line and stuff. So working with this person, she really helped me see, and support her in whatever she needs, regardless on what anyone else thinks that she needs to do. So I think that was one of the most important things I've learned.
Thank you, Tabitha. I actually had that written down if no one came out with that, how important it is for us to find out what matters to that individual and not give them a long list of things that's going to overcome them. And I think those of us who are so proud of our programs and know how they can help, sometimes we forget that important part. So thank you for bringing that up. Would anyone else like to share?
Hi, my name is Samantha Vale. I'm an attorney with Legal Aid Society. I guess it's more of something that has just been reinforced. Elder Angela Overton said something about how the most trusted members in the community are the religious leaders. And I've noticed when doing outreach, a lot of times I've faced distrust, and it has, members have just not wanted to talk to me. And it hasn't been until the religious leaders from various religions have engaged with me and introduced me and to be like a trusted person, then they'll, I feel like, be more inclined. And I feel like I need to come back to my job and reiterate this issue, because we find ourselves in the same problem where people just don't want to talk to us about these very important problems in our community. So I'm really glad she brought that up.
Thank you, Samantha. Yeah, I think it's really important when we're doing any kind of community work to know who the trusted people are in that community and be able to have private conversations with them, find out what matters to that community, and then be able to know how to address that. And I thank you for sharing that you're going to take it back to your people so that you all can look at that. This is so important for us to be able to share what we have learned. Anyone else?
I just want to share this. The other, I guess, side of the coin is being able to get connected with those trusted leaders. It's not always easy to do. So, just from the perspective of, those of us who work out in the community, I know sometimes it is exhausting because we have so much to do with so little, but often it takes, more than one try. Sometimes it takes more than 10. But my point is simply that the best way to reach certain communities is by, by way of the faith institutions in those communities, but it's not always easy getting to those trusted leaders. So you really do have to make connections with those who are close to the trusted leaders, et cetera. Sometimes it's just a strategy that you have to utilize to get that kind of work done.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that, Barbara, because I was thinking that, it's not always the religious leader that we can get to, or maybe even the religious leader doesn't realize they need to get to us, or at least respond to our contact. And one of the things that I have found that has helped me when I'm having a problem in a community is try to find a coalition in that community who's doing good work, and learn people from that. One particular community that I was having a real difficult time quite a few years ago working with, I found a coalition, and within that coalition, there was about 4 or 5 ministers from that community, and then things could happen. So thank you for bringing that out to us. One of the things that I wrote down, and I think that we all know it, but sometimes maybe we don't want to believe it, is how slow change is. And, goodness, we got so much we want to do, and that we want to help our people to have better health outcomes. We want our people to have joy. And sometimes we try to force things to happen too quickly. So let's learn how we can listen to our people, find out really what matters to them, and walk with them. And then another thing that she said I thought was really interesting is we have to be able to address their struggles. And I think she used the example of they need water, so you're going to have to take them to the water sometimes. And I think that's even true with our needs, that sometimes we just expect them to be able to reach out and find answer to that need when we give them a list of resources. But sometimes that is just overwhelming to them, and we need to sit there and do that with them. One of the things that I would say, Tabitha, about the situation with her church is talk to her and make sure that she has shared with her pastor or whoever she trusts in her church. Because some of my experience has shown that the client seems to think that those people should know. And if she was able to be there, she would be there, when maybe they don't know. And I heard you say she goes to church when she has transportation. They may not realize, they may think she's not coming to church simply because she doesn't feel like coming to church, and not even think about it being a transportation issue. So help her to be able to be a little open with them. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. I want to give you a chance, if you do have any events or any concerns within your community that you'd like to share with us. Are we all kind of gearing down for the end of the year? If so, what I would really like to suggest to you is, if you have things coming up in the upcoming year and you have some good information, some good flyers, if you will send those to Justin, we will put them on this slide so that people can know how to get to those events that you are having. So help us help you by sending what's happening in your community. Because these recordings go out to a large number of people, and some of them may be in your area looking for something. So if you would do that, that would help us be able to advertise a little better what's going on around our state. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, Justin. Okay, so out in Henry County, we have started a Walk with a Doc program, and we meet the first Saturday of every month at 9 a.m. at our local recreational park. And if you would like to be a part of it, if you live within walking distance, listen to me, driving distance, none of us live within walking distance. Henry County is rural, just like Tabitha's area. But if you do, we would love to have you. You know, if you know someone who lives in Henry County, when you get this slide, take this and send it to them, because we want our folks in our area to learn how important walking is to health. And our Dr. Moisa, he just does a really quick 5-minute health update on a subject, and then we walk together, and we really are having a good time with that. And if you are interested in starting a program in your area, well, then work with some of your local doctors and go to the Walk with the Doc organization and find out how you can do that. Let's get Kentucky walking, folks. Okay, next slide. Alrighty, so we are going to be starting our next hybrid Flourishing Together at the clinic on January 29th. It will be from 10:30 to 12, and hybrid means that you can choose to come to that class there at the clinic, or you can choose to be a part of it on Zoom. It lasts for 10 weeks. It is just a really neat program to help us learn how to be healthier. Again, find out what matters to your people, what matters to you, and check and see who would like to be a part of this. Our Flourish program at the Institute is our program that helps adults with multiple chronic conditions to improve life satisfaction through a comprehensive care navigation program. And part of that was introduced to you today, and how we do that. And our caregiver program is for those who are taking care of aging adults or 60 and above. And we want to help our caregivers with support and resources. Caregiving is a joy, but it's also a struggle, and we want to help them the best we can. So if you or someone you know needs that, there is a Qualtrics survey there that just says you have an interest, then someone from that program will call you and talk to you about it. And then we heard a little bit from Chelsea about the virtual friendly visitor program, but we have designed these for those who are lonely or isolated and just need someone to be calling them and checking on them. And then My Health Matters is something that we do every Monday night from 6:30 to 7:30. And this coming Monday night, one of our own students who is a art therapist will be talking to us about art. If you would like to come, just get on our webpage, or you can use the information that you can get when you get this in from Jason too, to be able to get on that. The following week, we're going to have a concert, and I don't know how many of you have had the pleasure of meeting Jason Paracco. He works with the hospice. He is a delightful person. I just love him. And I have been told by so many people that he is very, very talented. He plays several instruments, and he is going to be doing a concert for us. And then we're going to start out the new year with learning a little bit more about healthy habits, and we're going to talk to you specifically about humor, happiness, and harmony. What a way to start the year, huh? All righty, so let's go on. Okay, I will yield.
So just a reminder that the Optimal Aging Conference is returning in person in 2024. We're going to be at the lovely historic Brown Hotel in downtown Louisville, Kentucky. So mark your calendars. Early bird registration is now open, and the full schedule will be coming soon. So please keep that on your radar.
Thank you, Justin. And in closing, I just want to share our pledge that we will become an effective state coalition working with community members and community-based organizations to empower our state to become a healthier and compassionate people. Therefore, in order for that to happen, we each will need to practice self-care and model these healthy behaviors to our family, our coworkers, and the members of our community. Next slide. And this is our pledge for 2024, is a year for more. And we're going to learn what that means as time goes on. So we hope that you have a very happy holiday. And now I'm going to yield it back for those that are going to help us with our surveys.
Okay, and
Yes.
Thank you.
Want to jump in, please, Justin?
Yeah. So the session's evaluation today, please just go ahead and complete the survey here. You can either use the QR code or I just put the code or the link in the chat. We really value your feedback. If you are a community health worker who would like continuing education, you must complete the evaluation. Everyone else, if you would like a survey, or if you would like an evaluation, please, I am tongue-tied, I'm tired. Please, if you would like a certificate, complete the evaluation either way, and you can just include the very bottom if you would like us to send you a certificate. Anything else, Pam?
No, just hope you have a wonderful rest of your month and a great holiday. And we thank you so much for being present.
And we have some great topics coming up in 2024, so we look forward to seeing you in January.
And subscribe to our email list if you haven't already. Thank you so much, everyone.